Welcome to another East Tradewinds Mastermind with Percy Barr.
We all know that the summertime, people go away for vacation, and traditionally in a brick and mortar location, it's kind of a dull time unless you're in a tourist situation. So you have to kind of prepare for those times. So you have cash flow and you have proper staffing and you get people off for vacations and things like that. We're mostly entrepreneurs, so the idea of a vacation is going to the coffee machine and getting a fresh cup of coffee, and then by the time you're back, you're off vacation. So that's kind of where we're at. But what are we doing to promote business now so that we have the appropriate cash flow to handle us over July and August and into September? Because that usually it's usually thin that first couple weeks because people aren't quite getting back. So what are people doing, or have you even thought about that? I know some of us are reactionary in the sense that our next thought is what we're doing next, as opposed to what we're doing next week. So has anyone done any planning on that?
Actually, I think for myself, it's been the Knack for Business podcast runs hot and heavy throughout the year. July and August is not recording and more planning and strategizing how I'm going to reformulate things. If I'm offering more new or tweaking platform, right? Because then I can stop and introduce it into production mode. That's for me. Over to you.
As a coach, you have to make very sure that you eat your pet food, that you're actually living what you say you're living. So I try to look at seasons. Months are actually meaningless in your mind because you can't get around your ahead of a month. That requires calendars but seasons you understand. And I'm already thinking it's fall. I'm already building for a fall season, and it's going to be prosperous and it's going to be fun. And it's going to enlighten others. So that's what I'm excited about.
Carl?
Yeah, ironically, with the space I play in, we have clients who want a September or October launch, and that means work actually begins basically over the summer, late May, June into July. So I'm not not to say my business is season proof, but certainly we do find that it's as much as it can be quiet in some ways, it's also busy in others. So yeah, so we plan knowing that, and we let people know up front that if you want to launch in September or October, you got to start thinking about it now, not when you're sitting at the cottage for 4 weeks, and you got to start planning it now. So that's how we attack it.
You're absolutely right. The worst time to plan it is when you're sitting on the dock, 3 beers in, and you can barely write, and you're thinking about strategy for the fall. That's terrible time to do it.
And you don't wait till October, you don't wait till September when you're back to say, I want to launch this fall, because again, it's a 60 to 90 day window. And all of a sudden September becomes November, and then November becomes January, and then January becomes March and April.
Same as Carl, in the podcasting world, you never stop until Christmas. It's like we're always on basically. And the only thing when we can do is like basically Christmas time, because everybody's finally on holiday. But, when people, again, want to do podcast guesting and, okay, I want to start in September, October, you already have to start it like almost now or in June, because everything is so booked up. If you are, if you have a great podcast, again, it never stops for us. So it's kind of always on 24/7. That's the podcasting world.
What works for me is that I'm running the business now, but I'm always like a year or two ahead of myself, in the sense that I'm already planning where I'm going to be in a year or two. And that always works for me really well, because whenever you need equipment, whenever you need something at the time, it's the most expensive. If you've ever tried to get a generator when you have no power, that's when you're not going to get a deal. So this is when I plan up ahead, like we're expanding our crystal line. And it's always in my mind of how big I want it to be. And already I'm getting people that have little collections here and there that want to sell their crystal, or buyers that I want to get out of the business. And it's like, I just want to unload them. And I like that talk, because it's usually got a deal in there. But this isn't something that I'm doing now, but it's already coming to me. So when these opportunities come, you can grab them. So whenever there's a slowdown in business, I'm still like so busy doing other things to get things. Because when we just look at our business and we have the time to say, it's slow, that means you're too focused on where you are right now. You haven't done that forward work. It's not that you're living in the future. It's just that there's a certain expectation, and I'm living right now, and these are the opportunities coming to me now. So that seems to work for me. So I remember in the moving business, I envisioned this going to one cottage or something, and the truck can only go so far from the door. And I was envisioning this long, you know what they have at the beer stores, these rollers that move the cases of beer, and they're on rollers. These things, I envisioned these type of things portable that could go from the truck to the house, and you're just pushing the boxes into the house that could be 300 feet away. And so I says, wouldn't that be nice? And within about 2 weeks, there was an auction in this one warehouse, and they had these rollers, and it was almost like 1,000 feet, but it was like an accordion. It all just came together, and you had to push it apart, and it would end up being about 20, 30 feet, and it was like 9 of them or something. And it's like nobody wanted them. This thing is worth thousands of dollars. And so at the end of the auction, like nobody even bid on it. And so she said, "What? Do you want it?" I says, well, "I'll give you $100 for it." Sold. So it's that kind of thing. And then in one of the jobs we had about 6 months later, we did have that exact cottage, and we couldn't get close, but I knew it because I was able to drive ahead, realizing, hey, we're about 400 feet from the road, and we can't drive the truck on it because they have the septic system and other factors to drive a 10,000-pound truck on it. So we had to be really far away. And so we rolled out these rollers, and the client going, "Man, you guys are equipped." But that comes with a vision. It starts off with what do you want to do? And then it just comes to you. And I got it for next to nothing. So that's so try that.
Tony the bargain hunter. Jojo.
Yeah, you bring up a good point here. We get nudges. We get nudges along the way what we should do in the future. We're living in the moment. We're doing our job. And it's funny that you brought up the question today, Bernie, about the movie, because I'm going to be having a new offering where people can create a chapter about their life, and we could do it in a movie form because everybody has an interesting story to tell, and it can be done in a chapter. We don't have to go on and on about every single detail, but I'm getting nudges and I'm paying attention. Tony would have something to say about this. When you hear something, when you have a dream, someone whispers in your ear, you're in a networking group like this, something happens, it nudges you saying, yes, 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 let's forge into the future and see what possibilities exist and take chances, because if you don't stick your neck out, nothing's going to happen. That's it.
Yeah. I know Bernie and I were talking last week about doing a bit of a mastermind about business building in the fall. And so, some of that planning needs to be done now so that you have the right materials in place, and you target the right audience. You can't throw out an invite on Monday and expect to do it on Friday. And unfortunately, I've seen entrepreneurs do that where they've got so wrapped up in their business they forgot they had a go live, and that's a real challenge. I'm working with one gentleman right now who has a go live on Wednesday that has to happen, and he's nowhere near of getting the copy together for the landing pages and the whole process. And it's just like, yeah, man, I appreciate that you're doing this based on someone else's timeline because he's presenting with another person, but you knew this 3 months ago. So we're going to do the best we can, and we're going to move forward, but there needs to be some planning, and entrepreneurs on a whole are terrible for this. We're kind of reactive. Crap, there's a new market coming up. I need to take advantage of that. Okay, but if you had been watching the trends, you would have saw that 6 months ago and you would have been prepared for it. Much like Jojo, you're seeing things in the marketplace that you should take advantage of, and yet you put it off. I'm too busy now. I'll get to it next week. Yeah.
Well, Tony and I are working on a charity golf tournament for the Phoenix Business Exchange.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like, I know the golf course. I used to pre-plan, so if I wanted to do something this summer, maybe midnight, good luck. But, that's a good example. There's a runway for everything that has to happen. And it's not so much availability, but it's also the marketing. So if you're launching something new, you got to ramp it up, right? Is there an appetite for it, et cetera? And connecting resources. In this case, it's supporting a charity, and so it's not a profit generator. It's more a marketing generator, right? So it's also leveraging that.
Yeah. And, you know, Wayne put in a thing in the chat here, the shorter the time to the more prizes are needed to attract people in the last minute. And that's absolutely true. I worked for one gentleman who Wayne knows just passed away a little while ago in the computer industry. And he was notorious to say, okay, well, we're doing a golf tournament in 30 days, and so our team of 12 people actually had to stop selling stuff to get this golf tournament off the landing or off the ground. It was just terrible. Of course, I mean, I'm salary plus commission. So, he'd come to me and say, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And I said, that doesn't make me any money. So go away. And that's probably why I don't work for him anymore. So
Do you factor in for tech changes too? Sometimes you'll get forecasts, either Google or Microsoft, or they'll say, "Hey, we're adding another layer of complexity just to prevent fraud, right? For email spamming, right? So they'll add a tweak in there, which totally messes everything else up, right? Especially
yes, it does.
inside Go High Level. Is that something and they do allow for a calibration period? You should know, but if it's not your main news feed, you don't, right? Till you're not working. How do you manage the tech undulations that are going to be disruptors?
So for most entrepreneurs, it's really difficult because we're working with 4 or 5, maybe 6, 7 applications. Each of those applications have notifications coming out from the manufacturer that are talking about updates and things like this. And I mean, it's more than we want to partake. For a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't have the technical ability to actually understand the notice in the first place. So they're kind of, yeah, I'll deal with it later. And when you deal with it later, it's the day it went live. A good example of that is Go High Level's update to the DMARC to avoid spam emails coming out from Go High Level because they were getting labeled as a spammer. That DMARC thing was mentioned probably 3 to 4 months before they actually put it in place. Yet everybody was scrambling the last week when it went live, because your emails weren't going out unless you actually did some things with your DNS. Now, if that sounded all strange to people, that's what I do. I work in a strange world.
Acronyms that make things go
Poof.
bump in the night.
Carl.
Yeah, it's funny how you mention the tech piece, because when I started this agency back in 2020, podcasts were still, for the most part, audio only. Very few people had a video component to their show. And now everyone wants video and everyone wants transcription and everything has to be SEO. So automatically, just from a tech perspective, and again, most people, to Percy's point, they don't understand the tech and what goes on behind the scenes. So where we used to be able, and we still can, used to be able to definitely launch a show in 60 days, depending on what kind of show they're launching and how many moving parts, how many hosts, whatever. It could be 90 to 120 days to launch a show. To do it right, can you launch it in a day? Sure. It's going to be crap, but to do it right and to have all those moving parts in place, it's going to take at least 90 days. Just, if for no other reason, just because of the tech.
So I guess the other part of this question is, everyone's got a sales funnel and a process a customer journey that people have to go through. Do you get nervous in the summertime when your funnel gets a little short? When your prospect list gets a little thinner?
I don't, because the networking groups I'm in, they run all summer long. And one of the groups I'm in is a business mastermind, and we're always bringing people to the group. And there's another group that I've just recently connected with. By the way, this group is phenomenal, by the way. You get a lot of great fodder out of this group and great connections here. But one of the other groups I'm in, they didn't even start meeting until 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they've got meetings scheduled all summer long. And it's not necessarily about prospects so much as it is about meaningful or the right introductions to you and people who definitely want what you have. So do I get worried about it? I used to, but I think to Wayne's point earlier in his messaging of I can't, it's almost like saying, well, I can't get clients in the summer because, oh my goodness, everyone's on holidays and my pipeline's going to be dry. I look at it as I might not be getting as many leads as I do throughout the year, but I'm still gung-ho to make those connections and have those virtual coffees. And those I will do poolside or on the deck or whatever, or from my patio, seriously. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was selling computers years ago, in the at the end of August, you could probably put my prospect list on the back of a business card. Things got really tight here in Kingston because everybody goes, if you're not sailing, you're golfing. It's that kind of a town, or you've gone home, or you've done it, because we have a lot of transit people here in Kingston. And so, most of the shakers who actually had to make the decisions were long gone, and you had to wait till they get back. Of course, when they get back, they're so busy trying to make up for the lost time. They've been away for 3 weeks, and they're overwhelmed. So you kind of try and get them before their vacation and kind of get them thinking about it so that you actually have a reason to call them back when they get back, right? So you're planting seeds, right? And this is the spring. It's a good time to plant. So, think about doing a regeneration campaign to some of your older clients. Take clients that you've had before and phone them up out of the blue, or contact them out of the blue and say, hey, we did this work 3 or 4 years ago. Just wondering how it's working out, or we're doing some new stuff. Some new equipment has come out, and I'd like to just take a few minutes and retouch that video for you. We're doing it for free. There's no cost to it. Just was thinking of you when this new equipment came out. I thought I'd like to try it with your video, something like that. Because I mentioned videos because JoJo put her hand up.
Yeah, you know what? Life gives us exactly what we need at exactly the right time. And if you're doing everything that you can to always do the right stuff and just keep moving forward, you're going to be successful. But if you get lazy and you think, I'm going to it's okay to take a day off. We need to balance ourselves. We can't always be working. But if you're just forging along, showing up, life is going to show up for you too.
We thank you for watching. We meet every Tuesday between 8 and 9 a.m. Eastern. There is no cost and an option to become a speaker too. Find East Tradewinds on LinkedIn.